This is the Word of the Week reflection for August the 31st, Humility and the Heavenly Banquet. The scripture reading for today is from Luke chapter 14, verses 7 through 14. Jesus told a parable to those who had been invited to dine at the home of one of the leading Pharisees, noting how they were choosing the places of honor at the table. When you are invited by someone to a wedding banquet, do not recline at table in the place of honor. A more distinguished guest than you may have been invited by him, and the host who invited both of you may approach you and say, "Give your place to this man." Rather, when you are invited, go and take the lowest place. For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, and the one who humbles himself will be exalted. Then he said to the host who invited him, "When you hold a lunch or dinner, do not invite your friends, or your brothers, or your relatives, or your wealthy neighbors, in case that they may invite you back and you have repayment. Rather, when you hold a banquet, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, and the blind. Blessed indeed will you be because of their inability to repay you, for you will be repaid at the resurrection of the righteous." Reflection. It is the false or ego-centered self that would seek a place of honor at a wedding banquet. Jesus' suggestion to take the lower place helps his listeners understand that the Spirit blesses or exalts those who step away from self-glorification. Yet even choosing the lowest place could be a trick of the ego. If we take that lower seat while secretly expecting some reward for doing so, we are simply cloaking our egoic motivation and engaging in false humility. This could be true even when the reward we desire is simply between us and the Spirit. The root of the word humility, related to the Latin humilitas and the English word humus, translates as down to earth or grounded. With humility, we see things as they are, avoiding the extremes of either glorifying or degrading the self. Jesus' concluding remarks in this parable point to an even deeper invitation. Let go of all self-focus and move into agape, the unconditional love that seeks the well-being of others. He tells the holder of the banquet to host a meal for the neediest people with no thought of what might be received in return. In other words, we are to offer our banquet of talents, service, and love magnanimously and without attachment to the outcome of our efforts. As Thomas Keating notes in God is Love, one of the fruits of contemplative living is, quote, receiving the compassion of divine mercy and letting it flow onto others uninterruptedly, end quote. a process we facilitate each time we release our identification with the small self and its motivations so we can act as the Spirit leads. Keating continues, quote, "There is only one self, ultimately, and this is God manifesting in us. And this manifests most effectively when we're not thinking about ourselves at all. It's just being who you are as a human being that is being deified in communion with all other human beings." End quote. Just being who we are in humility, fed by Spirit, and grounded in the needs of our beloved community. This is the heavenly banquet God invites us to. There are 3 different meditations today. The first is from Thomas Keating, Intimacy with God. Quote, "Centering prayer is focused on the heart of the Christian mystery, which is Christ's passion, death, and resurrection. Each time we consent to a new light on our weakness and powerlessness, we are in a deeper place with Christ. Christ, in his passion, is the greatest teacher of who God is. Sheer humility, total selflessness, absolute service, unconditional love. The essential meaning of the Incarnation is that this love is totally available. Centering prayer is simply a humble method of trying to access that infinite goodness by letting go of ourselves. Consent to God's presence and action, symbolized by the sacred word or breath or glance, is nothing else than self-surrender and trust." End quote. The second meditation is from Sister Mary Margaret Funk, Humility Matters Toward Purity of Heart. Quote, "Humility matters. Since ultimately God is our heart's desire, we long to be nothing for the sake of everything, in imitation of Christ who emptied himself that all may have life to the full." The early Christians celebrated the paradox of Christ's divine self-surrender and found in it a supreme way to put on Christ. They sang a hymn based on Philemon 2, 5-11, in honor of Jesus' self-emptying, how he humbled himself of himself. In imitation of Christ, we too can empty ourselves of our self-constructed chatter and know that sheer joy of how humility matters. End quote. The third meditation is from Cynthia Bourgeault in The Shape of God, Deepening the Mystery of Trinity. Quote, "Every act of complete self-giving in the name of the fullness, even though you feel like you are isolated, ignored, unconnected, and meaningless, connects you immediately and becomes a sacrament of the manifestation of that dance of perichoresis, the fullness of love. That's what happened in Jesus' case. That's what he is teaching. It is not a renunciate path. It is not a hold back, guard your purity, don't touch the world because you might be contaminated. It is the world of give yourself fully, hold nothing back, because in this act of complete self-giving, you make manifest what the kingdom of love looks like. End quote.
To practice. There are 4 practices to engage this week. The first practice. In her book, Thoughts Matter, Mary Margaret Funk offers advice on dealing with the spiritual conundrum of vainglory or self-exaltation when, quote, the self takes credit for good actions, end quote. It's a tricky issue, for when we make spiritual progress a goal, the ego can fall into self-inflation, or the opposite, self-dejection. How then might one move towards genuine humility? Funk writes, quote, maintain yourself with solemn care and watch for the signs of vainglory. They can be detected by observing yourself when being competitive, telling remarkable tales about yourself, seeking the credit, or taking on the role of the hero. Through watchfulness of thoughts, I can edit, redirect, and change thoughts about myself that are either high, praise, or low, dejection. The practice of humility encourages me to think about myself exactly as I am, neither too high nor too low. End of quote. She suggests ceaseless prayer for, quote, when prayer is automatically going on in the heart, vainglory cannot exist. End of quote. Practices that reduce vainglory do so by, quote, placing the good action, thought, or motivation in the light of God's goodness, not my own. End of quote. If you would like to learn more about how to weave this kind of practice into your daily life, Contemplative Outreach offers instructions on active prayer practice. There are links in this week's email. The second practice. Consider adapting a version of metta as a prayer whenever we're tempted to put ourselves or our ideas first, or when a tendency to blame another arises. For example, bless the other with part or all of this version of metta. May you be happy and safe. May you be healthy in body and mind. May you always have enough. And may your heart know peace. For more on using metta in this way, there is a link in the email. The third practice. Watch the movie Babette's Feast, based on Isak Dinneson's novel, as a meditation on this week's themes of humility, selfless generosity, community, and heavenly banquets. It is available on several streaming platforms and at libraries. The fourth practice. Post your reflections and your prayer requests using the link in today's email. By clicking on the subscribe link on the right-hand side of a thread, you can receive email notifications when someone posts a comment or a prayer request. And some further notes. 2 live Word of the Week prayer chapels are offered to support your journey. Each prayer group has a slightly different reflection excerpt. Therefore, some participants attend both. The groups meet Tuesday, 9 to 10 a.m. Central Chicago time, and Wednesday, 5 to 6 p.m. Central time. You can find the link to join these prayer groups in today's email. Or, there are additional opportunities to support your silent prayer practice and spiritual journey on the Meditation Chapel, a Zoom-enabled, worldwide meditation community. All groups are free and open to all. You can find out more by clicking on the link in today's email.